Russia got it wrong again. After launching one of its most intense bombing campaigns of the war, Russian forces were convinced they had wiped out every last one of Ukraine's Bradley fighting vehicles. But they were mistaken, and now they're paying the price for that miscalculation. The incident unfolded in Ukraine's Sumy Oblast, near the contested village of Andriivka, a site of fierce fighting for quite some time. This area sits near the border between Ukraine and Russia, and both sides have fought hard to control it. Last year, Ukraine held not only Andriivka, but also several surrounding villages. Russia had little to no presence in Sumy Oblast, which gave Ukrainian forces the opportunity to carry out cross-border raids into Russia's Kursk region, disrupting dozens of settlements and towns. At the peak of this offensive, Ukraine had seized control of hundreds of square miles of Russian territory, demonstrating its ability to turn the tables and apply the same strategy Russia had used at the start of the war. It was a symbolic blow to Vladimir Putin's narrative and strategy. But eventually, the offensive stalled. Russia regrouped, diverted additional troops to the area, and by early 2025, Ukrainian forces were pushed out of Kursk Oblast entirely. Russia then launched a counterattack, with troops pushing over the border into Sumy. But here's the problem for Moscow. Those Russian troops have almost no combat vehicles supporting them. Many are advancing on foot or riding bikes and quad bikes. The reason is simple. Russia has lost enormous amounts of military equipment over the course of the war. Independent analysts, like Oryx, have visually confirmed more than 3,700 tanks and 7,500 armored vehicles destroyed. That's not even counting the hundreds of missile launchers and thousands of transport trucks also lost. These figures are based on real visual evidence. Ukraine's own estimates are even higher. They claim to have taken out over 10,000 Russian tanks, more than 20,000 armored vehicles, over 22,000 artillery systems, hundreds of aircraft, and more than 23,000 drones, plus thousands of cruise missiles. The truth likely lies somewhere between these extremes. But either way, Russia's losses are staggering. In response, it's desperately trying to ramp up production, tripling its output of T-90M tanks, and pulling old Soviet-era equipment out of storage for refurbishment. Still, Russia can't keep up with the losses. Tanks can cost millions of dollars each. Even lighter vehicles, like the BMP-2 or Tiger, are worth hundreds of thousands. Every one destroyed is a major financial blow, and with Russia's economy under stress from sanctions and tariffs, it's a blow the Kremlin can't afford. Putin has already announced cuts to military spending in 2026, a move aimed at avoiding a deeper recession. Russian commanders have started shifting their tactics to avoid becoming a nearly demechanized army. U.S. military blogger David Axe, quoting open-source analyst Mukhlasan, recently pointed out that in Sumy Oblast, only one MRAP, an armored truck, has been visibly lost. Everything else is being done on foot or small civilian vehicles. According to Mukhlasan, this highlights just how severe the vehicle shortage is. He notes that in 40 months of fighting, Russia has lost around 13,000 tanks, armored personnel carriers, and MRAPs, roughly the number it had at the start of the wider invasion. Russia can only produce a few thousand new vehicles per year, and has already pulled most usable Cold War-era models out of storage. The situation is so dire that civilian cars, motorcycles, and even golf carts now account for 90% of Russian vehicle losses each month. That paints a stark picture of a military that is increasingly reliant on sheer manpower instead of mechanized strength. But while Russia's hardware is dwindling, its troop numbers remain strong. The Russian military still fields about 1.3 million active duty soldiers. This is largely due to aggressive recruitment campaigns and more coercive methods. Huge cash incentives, up to $40,000, have been offered to attract recruits. In April, Putin announced one of the biggest call-ups in years, drafting 160,000 young men into service. On top of that, up to 30,000 North Korean troops are expected to join, and Russia has also been pressuring Central Asian migrants into service, forming special units to send to the front lines. All of this is part of Putin's plan to grow Russia's military to 1.5 million active duty troops, second only to China. And so far, despite over 1 million total casualties, including more than 250,000 killed, Russia has managed to keep replenishing its ranks, bringing in around 30,000 new troops each month, the same number it's estimated to lose to death or injury in Ukraine every month. This explains why Russian troops are now literally walking across Ukrainian land without the support of armored vehicles. The Kremlin sees its soldiers as expendable, easier and cheaper to replace than tanks or fighting vehicles. This has led to revised military tactics that emphasize sheer manpower and light vehicles over costly equipment. But this strategy has some serious drawbacks. Without vehicles, Russian troops move much slower than mechanized units. Ukrainian American war correspondent David Kirichenko has described how this makes it virtually impossible for Russia to achieve major breakthroughs on the front. And when these lightly equipped Russian forces do encounter Ukrainian armored units, they're often forced to flee or are annihilated in a matter of seconds. That's why Russia tries to eliminate Ukrainian vehicles before pushing forward, relying heavily on airstrikes to soften targets. Despite taking losses in its air fleet, especially during Ukraine's dramatic June 1st Operation Spiderweb strike, Russia still maintains a large and dangerous air force, equipped with a significant number of glide bombs. It regularly drops up to 100 of these bombs per day along the front lines. The goal is to destroy any Ukrainian vehicles or defenses in those areas and discourage Ukraine from bringing more into the fight. For a while, this worked extremely well. But Ukraine eventually developed countermeasures, namely electronic jammers, that interfere with the satellite guidance systems of Russian bombs. These jammers have become so effective that many bombs now fly off course, landing harmlessly in empty fields. Russian pilots have even complained that it takes 8 to 16 bombs to hit a single target now. Still, Russia continues its bombing runs, perhaps out of desperation, perhaps to save face. Recently, it launched a massive campaign near Kindrativka, Oleksivka, and Andriivka, dropping hundreds of bombs in a small area believed to be hiding Ukrainian vehicles. After the bombardment, Russian troops attempted to move in, but Ukraine was ready. Its forces, armed with mortars, Strykers, and Bradleys, flanked the advancing Russians, who had no vehicles to support them. The result, the Russian units were pushed back, retreating northeast toward the border. This not only repelled a key part of Russia's Sumy offensive, but also wasted a large quantity of Russian munitions. Since learning to jam Russian glide bombs, Ukraine has been able to protect its armored units far more effectively and launch well-timed counterattacks that exploit Russia's overconfidence. The tide may be turning. Russia once held the advantage with its large numbers of tanks, artillery, and air support. But now, with those resources dwindling, and Ukraine carefully managing its equipment while also receiving fresh supplies from the US, UK, and Germany, the battlefield dynamic is shifting. The US alone has delivered more than 300 Bradley fighting vehicles to Ukraine, along with hundreds of Strykers. The UK has sent at least 120 Mastiffs, and Germany dozens of Martyrs. The Bradleys, in particular, have earned legendary status among Ukrainian troops for their blend of firepower, protection, and mobility. Armed with a 25 mm chain gun and tow missiles, the Bradley is well suited for close-quarters combat and urban defense. Its armor resists small arms and artillery, and its mobility allows Ukrainian forces to reposition quickly, enabling ambushes and counteroffensives. These capabilities allow Ukraine to strike fast and hard, pushing back Russian forces, regaining territory, and disrupting Russian plans. According to the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies, such counterattacks in Sumy Oblast are now threatening to encircle Russian troops near Andriivka. The longer Ukraine can delay Russia's advances, the more pressure Putin faces, especially now that U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a new ultimatum. Alongside a massive aid package, including Patriot missiles, Trump gave Russia just 50 days to agree to a peace deal or face harsh new tariffs, targeting both Russia and any nation still supporting it. 50 days is a short time in war. Russia might escalate its attacks, but Ukraine's ability to drag out the conflict and force missteps could make all the difference. For now, Russia is running out of time and options. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any updates. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.